If you are new to recursive common table expressions, I have solved multiple questions, but let me, jump to it, 10-second brief about it. So when you are writing a recursive common table expression, you need to have three different things. Anchor member, that means you start your query. Then there should be a recursive member, that means something that repeats itself. And then obviously you don't want it to go it forever. So there needs to be a termination condition. Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. This channel, Average Science, is all about trying to learn various concepts of average science by practicing a lot of questions. In this video, we are going to solve this question on Leetcode regarding Hopper Company Queries Part 3. The difficulty level of this question is hard, and this question has been asked multiple times in Uber interviews. And I'm also going to share the SQL schema as well as the Panda schema in the description box below. Okay, the question reads, we are given a table called drivers with two different columns, driver ID and join date. Driver ID is the column with unique values for this table. Each row of this table contains the driver's ID and the date they joined the Hopper company. There is a second table called rides, three different columns, ride ID, user ID requested at. Ride ID is the column with unique values for this table. Each row of this table contains the ID of a ride, the user's ID that requested it, and the day they requested it. There may be some ride requests in this table that were not accepted. Then we have a third table called accepted rides, four different columns, ride ID, driver ID, ride distance, and ride duration. Ride ID being the column with unique values for this table. Each row of this table contains some information about an accepted ride. Okay, it is guaranteed that each accepted ride exists in the rides table. Okay, we are asked to write a solution to compute the average ride distance and average ride duration of every 3-month window starting from January to March 2020 to October to December 2020. Round the average ride distance and average ride duration to nearest two decimal places. The way average ride distance is calculated is by summing the total ride distance values from the 3 months and dividing it by 3. Same way for average ride duration as well. Return the result table ordered by month in ascending order, where month is the starting month's number, that is January is 1, February is 2, and so on. I know this is a lot of information and a very lengthy question, but let's go through this example. I think it will make it clearer. So here we have a drivers table. We have certain drivers, their join date. Then we have the rides table, various rides, who requested it, when did they request it, and then accepted rides out of all those rides, which were accepted, who was the driver, what was the distance and duration. Now, if you just think about it, in this question, whatever is required in our output, the average ride distance and average ride duration, we don't even need this table. We don't need the drivers table. So let's forget about this table. We are only concerned about rides table and the accepted rides. Now, we need both of those values for 3-month period starting January. So in January, we need to basically look at January, February, and March of 2020. Which of those rides were accepted? And then what's the average ride duration and average ride distance? So if we look at in January, February, and March, so you have only two rides, is ride ID 1 and 10. And if we look at in accepted rides, only ride ID 10 has been accepted. So what it means is when you are looking at January and you are looking at the 3-month period from January 2020 to March 2020, there is only one ride which is accepted. So the ride distance is 63. So average ride distance will be 63 divided by 3. Why we are calculating the average that way? It's what is required in the question. That average ride distance is sum the total ride distance, because we have only one. That means the total is 63 divided by 3. Similarly, for average ride duration, we are going to have 38 divided by 3. Now, if you look at for February, right? So for February, you are looking at February, March, and April. So for February, March, and April, you are going to have ride IDs 1, 10, and 19. However, which of these got accepted? So 1 is not accepted, 10 is accepted, and 19 is also not accepted. So even for February, you are going to have the same average ride distance and average ride duration. So if we look at our output, this is what you have. You see month, January, February, you have the same thing. And we can go on until October, because at October, you are looking at October, November, and December. Now I think it would be more clearer. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to have the months from 1 to 10. Now since there are only 10 numbers, either you can do it manually, but since we have already learned about recursive common table expressions, it is better to use that. If you are new to recursive common table expressions, I have solved multiple questions, but let me, jump to it to just give you a 10-second brief about it. So when you are writing a recursive common table expression, you need to have three different things. Anchor member, that means you start your query. Then there should be a recursive member, that means something that repeats itself. And then obviously you don't want it to go it forever, so there needs to be a termination condition. Let me jump back. So we need basically months from 1 to 10. What we can do is with recursive CTE as, then what you want is in the parentheses you want the anchor members. So firstly start with 1, so select 1 as month. Then in this you keep on adding months, so union, so return me month plus 1 from this common table expression, right? So this is the recursive member, this is the anchor member, and you need to have a termination condition that only keep on repeating where your month is less than 10, right? So when you reach 9, you do 9 plus 1 10, so you will have 10 as an output, and when the loop tries to go back again, so it will say that 10 plus 1 is 11, which is not less than 10, so the condition will terminate, right? So once we have this, let me go ahead and run this. Let's see if we have all the months from 1 to 10 or not. So select star from CTE. Let me go ahead and run this. Let's see what do we get in our output. So if you look at our output, you have months from 1 to 10. Okay, this is great. Now what we want is we can move to these two tables, that rides table and accepted rides, and perform a inner join, because we are only concerned about the rides which were accepted in year 2020. So what we are going to do is, let me remove this part. So from the table called rights, let me alias this as R. Let us perform a inner join of the accepted rights table aliased as A on R dot ride ID is equal to A dot ride ID, and we are only going to keep those rows where your year coming out of the requested at column, so which is R dot requested at is equal to 2020. So for these conditions to be satisfied, return me rides dot everything, or r dot star, basically all the three columns from rides table, and from the accepted rides table we are only concerned about ride distance and ride duration. So A dot ride distance and A dot ride duration. Okay, let me go ahead and run this. Let's see what do we get in our output. Okay, let me just, bring it to the left so that it's easier for us to visualize. So now you have all the accepted rights in year 2020. Okay, this is great. Now what we want is we need to use what we had from the common table expression 1, basically using this recursive city. We had months from 1 to 10. Now we need to make sure that month 1, when you are considering it, you need to look at month 1, 2 and 3, right? So we can perform a left join here. So firstly, let us save this entire thing in another common table expression. So CTE2 as this entire thing goes into parentheses, and now from common table expression 1, so let's alias this as C1, perform a left join of common table expression 2 as C2 on, you basically want the month from this should be between the month that you are getting from common table expression and plus 2. That means if you're looking at month 1, it should be between 1 and 3. Right? Let me just write it, it will make it clearer. So on month coming out of C2 dot requested at should be between C1 dot month and C1 dot month plus 2. In these condition, you basically return me everything. Let me go ahead and run this. Let's see what do we get in our output. So if you look at this, what we have here is for each of the months, you have Okay, so when you are looking at month one, we were looking at January, February, and March. As we saw that we only have one accepted ride that was in March. So you have that. Similarly for February, March, April, and so on. But if you see, when you are looking at May, we need to look at May, June, and July as well. So you have July and June both here. So you see how it is working. That means now you have all the information. Now in your output, what we want is we want one row for every single month, right? So if you look at it, you have for month one, what's the average ride and average ride duration. So we can simply do this. We can save this entire thing again in a third common table expression. So CTE 3 as this entire thing goes into parentheses. And now basically what we are going to do is from this common table expression 3, group by the month column and then return me, right? So return me the month column, and now we need to calculate the average. Now average needs to be calculated using sum of the right distance divided by 3. If you go back to the question, that is what it wants. So don't use the average function here. It says calculated by summing up the total right distance divided by 3, right? So what we can do is return me the month, give me the sum of the ride distance, divide it by 3, and we need to round this to two decimal places as well. So round this entire thing to two decimal places and alias this as what is required in our output. It should be called average ride distance. So let's copy this, paste it here. Similarly, we can go ahead and do that. Give me the sum of ride duration, then divide it by 3, round this entire thing to two decimal places, and then alias this as what is required, average ride duration. Okay, and also, there is one thing that your output should be ordered in a certain way as well, right? So it says ordered by month in ascending order. So let me go ahead and do this, order by month in ascending order. Let me go ahead and run this. Let's see what do we get in our output. So yeah, even though this says accepted, there is one thing that is missing in this question, because if I go ahead and submit it, it is not going to pass all the test cases. Right now, your output looks exactly as expected output, but let me go ahead and show you what I mean by not passing all the test cases. So you see, it says wrong answer, and the reason why it says wrong answer is not because of any problem or bug in our query. It basically says that if your average ride distance and average ride duration comes out to be null, you basically need to replace it with 0. So that's the only bug. So what we can do is we can simply fix this in like one simple change. Basically do that if this comes out to be null, you replace it with 0. Similarly, if this comes out to be null, replace it with 0. Okay, now if I go ahead and run this, let's see what do we get. Again, like accepted, that's not an issue here. And now let me go ahead and submit it to see if it passes all the test cases this time or not. So yeah, this is accepted and this is how we do it. So yes, tricky question, lengthy question, might be confusing as well. But what we simply did was, to summarize, we firstly got months from 1 to 10, and for that we used recursive common table expression. Then we used the rides table and accepted rides table, performed the inner join to say that okay, in year 2020, what are all the rides that were accepted? What's their ride distance and duration? Once we had that kind of information, then we had to look at 3-month window. So that is why we have all the months from the recursive common table expression, and we performed a join mentioning that you only look at the 3-month period. So that is what we did. When we had all those information, we simply said that okay, for every month, give me the average ride distance as well as the average ride duration, and if it comes out to be null, just replace it by 0. So that's how we do it. Let me know if there's a better, more definition to solve this question. Let the solution be in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.